welcome. Welcome to Tuesday Night Live. This is the first day of the 12 projects of Christmas. Now, how this is going to work is I'm going to try and do one project a day other than Mondays and Wednesdays because those are my ballet carpool nights. But tonight I'm going to do two projects. So that will cover project 1 and project 2. Let me see if I can get the comments up so I can see who's on. All right. Yay. Hello, Jennifer. Hello, Cynthia. So happy you could join me. Hope everybody's weekend was really well and that their Thanksgiving was good. So I've got, man, I've been designing like crazy. My studio's a mess. I need a craft room cleaning fairy this week because I have quite a little mess going. I did get enough cleaned up to where it doesn't look so bad where you're looking, but you wouldn't want to see the rest of cut things everywhere. Projects all planned out. I don't have all 12 planned out, but I do have, I think like 6 or 7. So, and of course, I had to do what I always do to myself. I had these projects planned and pretty much ready to go. All I had to do was do a little bit of prep work. And I made a box last night, and then I went, oh, I should make a matching card for that today. So after thank you for sharing, Jennifer. So after I had the grandson leave today, I quickly came in and got busy on a matching card so that I could do those tonight. And then I was thinking, oh my goodness, why do I do this to myself? All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. The Poinsettia Petals stamp set and the dies are a carryover from last August to December mini catalog, and they are, currently in the annual catalog. Now, unfortunately, I did not pull out the catalog, and I've buried it somewhere. Oh, wait a minute, I've got it right here. Let's see if I can tell you what page that's on. Poinsettia Petals is on page 92. And then you'll find the coordinating dies in the die section. So those will be on pages 162 to, there's the poinsettia petals. They're actually on page 165. All right. So in addition to that, we are going to be using the Heartwarming Hugs designer series paper. This is also a carryover from last holiday season, but you will find this in the July to December mini catalog, and you will probably find it on the last chance list, and I haven't really looked to see if this will be on sale. So that brings me to the last chance list. That list goes live tonight at midnight. Mountain time. So for us here on the West Coast at 11 p.m. And there are quite a few items, some dies and things in the July to December mini catalog that are half off. So if you have those items or you had those items on your list and you haven't purchased them yet, I would highly encourage you to do that. The sooner the better, because all of those products that are retiring are while supplies last. Okay, So these are the 6 designs that are double-sided designs that are in that Heartwarming Hugs paper pack. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and I think we'll start with the card and then we'll move to the box. Okay, and I tried to show you how versatile this stamp set can be. I'm going to go ahead and show you the cards that we're going to make tonight. Actually, this is a bonus card. This is the card that we'll be making. So I basically made 2 cards the same, and I did case this design from Marissa Alvarez, Kitchen Table Stamper, but of course I threw my own spin on things. So this is the card that we'll be making, and this card is stamped and colored with the Stampin' Blends. But I wanted to show you how if you didn't want to color, you could make the same card and just use colored cardstock along with the ink and still get a similar effect. Okay? Okay, so let's move those out of the way and let's get started. Hello, Tracy. Thank you for joining. Hey, Tracy. I could not find you on Facebook this evening. That's Studio 115 Designs. It wouldn't show up in my feed. I was going to see if I missed your live this morning. So I didn't get notification, and so that's kind of odd. Anyway, I did go looking for you, but I can't find you on Facebook for some reason. I don't know what the deal is. All right, so here we are. We're going to be using some matte decorative dots. We've got a piece of basic white cardstock, and this is for our stamping. We've got a card base in Pear Pizzazz, and this is standard A2, 5.5 by 8.5, and scored at 4.25. Then we have a piece of the Heartwarming Hugs Designer Series paper, and I believe I cut this up 1.25 by 4, correct? 1.25 by 4. And then we have a second piece of that Designer Series paper, and this is cut at 3 inches by 2 inches. Okay? All right, so let's get stamping. We're going to be using Mossy Meadow and Cherry Cobbler and Pear Pizzazz ink. Let's start with the Mossy Meadow on our card base. I did take a spotty stamp from the Merriest Moments. I really wanted that, and I did not have, Poinsettia Petals does not have my little grunge stamp. So we're going to take some Mossy Meadow. Let me move my white, basic white, so I don't get ink on it. Let's make sure we're in the frame here so you can see. And I'm just going to stamp some of these randomly on the front of my card. Just like that, just for a little interest. Okay, and then we are also going to stamp in Mossy Meadow ink. I'm going to take the, this stamp is from the Poinsettia Petals, and it says, "Thank you for making this a wonderful season." And I'm going to stamp this in Mossy Meadow. And I'm going to stamp it right down here in the bottom right-hand corner. And it's important to stamp this first so that you know where to place your Designer Series paper. Ask me how I know this, because I messed up my second card. Well, I didn't mess it up. It just gave me an opportunity to change the layout a bit. All right, so we are done with the card base stamping. So let's bring in our basic white. We're going to move to Cherry Cobbler. And with our Cherry Cobbler, we're going to stamp the largest poinsettia layer. And then we're going to take the middle layer. And I'm leaving enough room so that I can die cut these out with the matching dies. Okay, so I need those 3 sizes. And then I'm finished with that. I'm going to take that Mossy Meadow ink again. And I'm going to stamp 1 large leaf and 2 small leaves. Okay, and that is what we need. Now, yep, that's it. I'm pretty sure that's all the stamping. Oh, no lives from you. Bummer. Okay, so we are going to take these now and we're going to color them with Stampin' Blends. And I've got a scrap piece of paper just to stick under here so that if it bleeds through, it doesn't get on my desk. Now, I made this pretty simple. So what I have done is I stamped in Cherry Cobbler. I'm using the, I think I looked at that, the light real red Stampin' Blend. And all I'm going to do on this is go around the edges. And then I'm going to turn this and go with the petal and color that all in. Now, I wanted to keep this pretty simple. So that really is all I've done for each petal. Okay, nothing fancy, just colored it with the light real red and let the Cherry Cobbler ink sink through. Okay, so with my leaves, I'm going to take the light Mossy Meadow and I'm going to do the same thing. Just going to color in the leaf with Mossy Meadow. With the light one, I'm letting the ink itself be my dark shadows. And I'm going with the grain of the leaf. And just coloring that in. There's nothing super fancy. Okay? And I would do that with all of those leaves. But I prepared in advance so that you didn't have to watch me color all those in. And then with my Wink of Stella, I'm going to go back on my real red on my poinsettias. And I'm just going to take some Wink of Stella and I'm going to trace along these petal lines and give a little bit where there's a little bit of shading. Okay, and I would do that for every poinsettia. Okay, for the center of the 2 largest, I'm going to leave those blank. For the smallest one, I'm going to take my Bumblebee Stampin' Write marker and I'm going to color in the little berries in the center. Okay, and then I would run this through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine with the matching dies, and let me show you those. Where did I set them at? I already... So these dies are a little bit unique in that you can cut them with just an outline for the stamped image. And I try on these, I'll look for, like this one, I look for this pointy section right here. And then I look for that same pointy section here. And I would line that up and run it through. You do have the option of taking this embossed vein and adding it to your leaf. And again, look for the curve. and then you can run that through. But for this particular card, all I used was the outline. Okay, and I did the outlines for all of the leaves and the petals. Okay, so I've already cut those out for us. Through the magic of Facebook Live, we have all of those pieces. Now, in addition, I also cut 2 of these spriggy things out of bumblebee cardstock. All right. Once I cut those bumblebee pieces, I took my scrap paper and my Wink of Stella, and I added Wink of Stella so that they're nice and shiny. And they've got some sparkle to them. Okay, because every holiday card should have a little sparkle. So we've got those. So I believe we have all of our pieces now. So let's take and put this card together. Okay, move those out of our way, and we'll grab those pieces of Designer Series paper. And I'm going to take a little bit of liquid glue. I'm going to lay this out kind of where I want it, I think. I'm going to lay this down. And you can tilt this or you can put it straight. You can do it however you wish to do it. I'm just going to take and put a little bit of liquid glue on there. Put that down like so. I'm going to do the same with this piece. Like that. Okay, then I'm going to start putting my poinsettia together. But before I do that, I'm going to take and curl my leaves. Just give it a quick curl, and then I'm going to curl back the tips up front just to give my poinsettia a little more dimension. And I'm going to do that with all of my leaves or my petals. Okay, so we've got that. And this one I'm just going to curl up. Okay, and I'm going to grab my liquid glue and I'm going to put a little dot in the center there. And I'm going to stagger my petals like so. Is that a good press? A little more liquid glue here. Now you could use liquid, or you could use glue dots, or you could, if you wanted a lot of dimension, you could use Stampin' Dimensionals. Hello, Sharon. Hello, Mary. Okay, so now we've got that together. Let's go ahead and turn it over. And we're going to take a Stampin' Dimensional, and I'm going to put that right in the center of the back there. Take that release paper off. And I'm going to put this down where I think, and I'm not going to press it. I'm just going to set it down. And I'm going to take my leaves, take my large leaf, and I'm going to put it down here like that. And because I didn't push on that poinsettia, I can turn that still. Then I'm going to take these two leaves, stick them over here like so. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm happy with that placement. Put a little bit of glue on the back of this leaf. Slide that down there. I'm going to give that a press. Whoops, I actually glued it to the other one. I guess that's all right. And we'll put that back in there, just like that. Okay, I'm going to grab this one out. Oh, which has gotten attached already, which is fine. Now I don't need to put any extra glue. Got it. This has become one large sticker. Everything attached, and I'm just going to give that a good press in the center. Okay. And I'm going to take my sprigs, and they're going to be too long. I'm going to cut off that. And again, before I stick it down, I'm going to stick it in here and put it in place. Trim that off. And I'm going to put that right there like that, I think. Got to make sure that I stay within the bounds of my card. Okay, so I think I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to put a couple of dots on some of these berries and that little stem. And then I'll slide that right back under that petal and stick that out right there like so. And stay. There we go. And we'll do the same with this one. And then we're going to stick that right under there and give it a press. Okay. And we are almost finished with the outer part of this card. Okay. So now we're going to take those matte decorative dots, and these are in the Sweet Little Stockings suite in the mini holiday catalog. So we're going to take the yellow ones here, and I'm going to take one medium. I'm going to stick it right there, and then I'm going to take two smaller ones and just stick those right there. Press those down, and there is our card. Okay, once you get your die cutting done and your coloring, which the coloring goes pretty quickly because we're not shading, we're just coloring. It's a pretty quick card that could be easily reproduced. All right, so for the inside of this card, we are going to take an inside piece. We're going to grab our scrap paper, and we want the Merry Christmas, which comes from the Poinsettia Petals stamp set. And Mossy Meadow. We're going to ink that up. And let me get that off the white for the moment so I can see a little better. Okay, beautiful. All right, now we're going to take the cherry cobbler ink and bring in that scrap piece of paper, and I'm going to use this side because this side is really messed good. And we are going to ink the full poinsettia petal image in cherry cobbler, and I'm just going to stamp this down here in the corner. All right. And that is the inside. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot this. Now we're going to take Pear Pizzazz ink. I'm going to clean this off. Let me grab my chamois. Then I'm going to take my Pear Pizzazz ink, and I'm going to stamp up here, stamp here, and stamp there. And that is the inside of our card. And that is ready to go in. All right. And for our envelope, I've taken and stamped that. I'm going to go ahead and color my berries here on the inside with the bumblebee. And I've stamped that same image on the front. I did use a blender pen to kind of give it just a little bit of color. And then for the back, I've put a piece of designer series paper on the envelope. Okay, so now you've got a beautiful card ready to go. All right. And again, here's that variation if you didn't want to color. I'll leave those for you to look at while I'm getting these things picked up for the next project. Okay. We are not doing a bunch of stamping on the next project. So let's go ahead and get those stamps out of the way so I don't get ink everywhere. All right, this is the stamp we need. All right, there we go. Good to go. And let's move all of this stuff. All right, we are good. Get those out of the way. Okay, so our next project is a 3D project. I had seen Mary Detherage make a cube box the other day, and she had made hers very small, and she had also given the directions for using a 12 by 12 sheet of paper and getting a box that was a 2 3/4 inch cube. Well, that did not fit my project. So of course I had to revamp the measurements. So for this one, we are going to be using primarily the poinsettia dies. We will be using the Happy Holidays from the Poinsettia Petals stamp set. These are our template. This is our template. Put that here so you can see it. if you wanted to take a screenshot. This will make you a 2 1/4 inch cube. So let's get started with that. We'll make the box first. You're going to start with a 9.5 by 7 3/4 inch piece of Mossy Meadow. We're going to get our Simply Scored tool. Make sure you can see the measurements. Get that down far enough, maybe. Maybe I'll get it down far enough where you can see it. There we go. All right. So we're going to score on the 9.5 inch side at, I always use the small tip on cardstock of my stylus. So I'm going to score at 2 1/4. Oh, thank you guys for the compliments on the card. I really appreciate that. 4.5 inches. So 2 1/4, 4.5, 6 3/4, and 9. Okay, then I'm going to rotate it clockwise, and I'm going to score on the 7 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch, 2 3/4, 5, and 7 1/4. And that is all the scoring that we need. Okay. So I'm going to grab my paper snips here. And I'm also going to grab my long scissors because it'll make this easier. Now, when you are looking at this, you want to hold it in landscape position. You'll notice that there's a 1/2 inch score here and a 1/2 inch score here, and you have a 1/2 inch score here. The 1/2 inch score on the short side is going to be our glue tab, and we only need the glue tab on this one piece here. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and burnish all these score lines, because sometimes I forget to do this first. So we'll burnish all of those good. You always want good, crisp score lines when you're putting together a 3D object. Okay. So now again, we're putting our glue tab here. We only want to keep this 1/2 inch piece. So we're going to remove this both of these sections, the square and the lower rectangle, the square and the upper rectangle. We're going to take all those. So I'm going to flip my cardstock over because it's easier for me to do it that way. And I'm going to cut to the left of the score line. And then I'm just going to come in and notch to make a tab. Notch to make a tab. Cut to the right of the score line in this case because of the direction that it's facing. And then that leaves me with a glue tab. Okay, now that's all we're going to remove at this point. And then we're going to cut up each of these score lines on both the top and the bottom, but I'm going to cut to the right and to the left of the score line, and then I'll entirely remove that score line and still maintain a straight edge, assuming I can cut straight. Okay, and I'm going to do that on all of these score lines. To the right and to the left. And basically what this does is take out the bulk. Okay. Okay, while I'm doing this, I want to tell you, I've reminded you about the last chance sale. We've also been given, well, I wouldn't know that you'd say we've been given notice, but the European markets have had a clearance rack refresh as of December 1st. So for us, in New Zealand and Australia, December 1st has already happened. And I believe probably by now England and some of the European nations have already gone to December 1st as well. Hang on just a minute. I got a frog in my throat. Excuse me for that. All right, so I've got all those cut. Now I'm going to take in with my snips, I'm going to pull up those pieces and I'm just going to snip them off. And that takes all the bulk out of the sides so that this box will go together really nicely. So those are just thin, tiny pieces. All right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and bring back in my, trimmer. And I want to keep this piece, so I'm going to tuck this out of the way. And I'm going to end up cutting this one completely off, but I'm going to tuck it out of the way. And I'm going to put this up to the top of my trimmer at the 1-inch mark. Okay, so I've got the first and third, if you're going from the tab, in there, and I'm just going to cut so that I leave 1 inch on both of those sides. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and fold those down, and I'm going to remove this second piece completely, right on that score line. Okay, so that this is what I have left on the top. Now I'm going to repeat this process on the bottom, but for the bottom now, I want to keep, I want to trim this piece, I want to keep this piece, I want to trim this piece, and this piece I'm going to cut completely off. I'm going to fold this tab down so that I can get a good straight edge at the top of my trimmer. And I'm going to line that up so that I have 4 sections. And I'm going to put that right on that 4th line. And that gives me the 1 inch. So again, I'm going to cut those tabs. And now we're done with the trimmer. And this is what our box looks like so far. Okay. Here's our template. So we're almost there. Okay. So now we want to keep this one, and we're going to remove this last one. So I'm going to tuck these out of the way. I'm going to cut this section off. All right. And now we're looking pretty much like the template, except that this template, we just need to do a little bit of trimming on our tabs. Okay. So I'm just going to take these tabs and the snips, and I'm just going to angle cut a piece off. And again, I'm debulking, so I don't need all that. Plus, these tabs are going to fold into these, and I need these sides to be out of the way for the tabs to tuck. Okay, this is a box that, other than the side, you would not need to have any adhesive on unless you're putting something heavy in it and you don't want it to fall out the bottom. Okay, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Okay, how are we doing so far? Okay, so now we've got our template. We're going to take a corner rounder, any corner rounder that you have. You could even corner round this with your scissors if you wanted. This will just help these tabs fold up into the box a little nicer. Okay, so I've rounded those tabs. So now we look exactly like our template. Okay, everything's cut, the box is ready. So we can put our template aside. And then we're going to add our designer series paper now because it's easier to put it on now than later. So depending on how you wish to do your decorations, you can, if you're just going to put designer series paper on your box, you want to put your designer series paper at 2 1/8 by 2 1/8 inch square. And then that will, or you could go down to a 2 by 2 square. So this is what it would look like if you were just putting one on. If you wanted a larger border with DSP, then you would cut it at 2 by 2, and that's what your borders would look like. But I chose to mat mine. So I have 5 pieces of Pear Pizzazz cardstock that are 2 1/8 by 2 1/8 inch square, and 5 pieces of the Warm Hugs Designer Series paper that are cut at 2 by 2. So we're going to add all of these pieces to our cardstock. Just going to mat those up. And let's see if there's anything else I need to tell you. You'll definitely want to check out that clearance rack refresh. Check out the last chance sale. And I will be able to order tomorrow out of the new January to July mini catalog and actually order my catalogs. So I will be ordering catalogs tomorrow or the next day, sometime soon. And as soon as I get those out, I will be giving them to my customers. If you don't already have a demonstrator and you would like a catalog, please private message me your address and request a catalog, and I'll get that out to you when I get them in. Okay, we're almost there with the designer series paper. And I'm using the liquid glue just because it allows me to slide these into place because I have such a narrow border. Okay, so this is for the top, the box top. So we can start adding these. Oh, come on, glue, you gotta work. Not sure where I have a new bottle of glue at the moment. That's close and handy. All right. So we've got 2 of the 5. You could, if you wanted, cut 6 and put your DSP on the bottom. I didn't think it was really necessary, so I'm not. Almost there. All right, did my comments freeze? Or are you guys just really quiet? Okay, so I'm going to use this for my upper. Boy, that's not looking quite right. Either I cut something wrong. I don't know why that one looks a little narrow, but it does. All right, so I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to take some tear and tape as soon as I find the end. And I'm going to run a piece of tear and tape along this glue tab right at the score line. I'm not going to cover the score line, but I'm going to put it right at the score line. Okay. And then I'm also going to put a little glue, a little adhesive here on this tab, because the item that I am putting in here that I designed this box for has a little bit of weight to it. And I definitely don't want it falling out the bottom. So I'm going to remove this release paper. If you have any adhesive that sticks over the edge, just go ahead and peel it or push it back on itself. Okay, so now I'm going to fold on the second score line from the left. I'm going to fold that flat. I'm going to score on the first score line from the right. And if I did everything right, this should line right up. I'll give that a good press. And now you can see where the box wouldn't really need adhesive to stay shut. Okay? But like I said, my item has a little bit of weight. So I'm going to take this unmatted portion and where I put this adhesive, I'm going to peel off my release paper. Get under that with my take your pick tool. That up, and then I'm going to carefully put that down inside. Close that up. Oh, and you know what I forgot to do? Okay, so then I'm going to take and I'm going to set that down and I'm going to give that a good press with my bone folder. And then I'm going to put a finger hole right here in the center so that the recipient will know where to open it up at. Okay, so I'm just going to give that a little mark at 1 and this is 2 1/4, so I want to mark it at 1 1/8. Then I'm going to take my 1/2 inch circle punch, but you could use a bigger punch or whatever you have on hand. And I'm going to give that a nice press. And now I've got the finger hole all ready to go for that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put my hot cocoa bomb in my box. And it is a perfect fit. It won't be jiggling around. And I'm just going to put that down. Okay, so now all we have left are the decorations. All right, move these things out of the way. I'm going to bring up the Big Shot or the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And this time I'm going to use both pieces of my poinsettia petals. So I'm going to lay this down on my surface. Well, I'm going to lay this down on my surface. And I've got a little piece of Post-it tape. I'm going to lay that down and I'm going to line it up. And then I'm going to press that into the Post-it tape so that when I pick it up, I have one die. Okay? I'll do that with each of my petals. Okay? So I'm just going to line this up just like so. Press that down into the Post-it tape. Now that will stay together and be lined up just like I like it. Okay. This one looks like it could use redone because I lifted those up to cut out the poinsettia petal leaves. I just keep it on my magnet sheet just like that, and then I separate them as I need them. Okay. All right, so we're going to cut, actually we don't need this large one. We're going to cut the medium, this smaller one, and then we're going to use this for the center. And we're going to use, I'm going to cut two of these smaller leaves in pear pizzazz. Okay, so let's bring up the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And I'm going to start with my petals, and I'm going to use the red velvet paper. This is in the mini. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place this on my cut and emboss machine. Actually, I'm going to move this down like that. Put this one over here. Get the littlest one and stick that right over here. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to cut and emboss it all at the same time. So we've got plate 1, our plate 2, and 2 plate 3s. That's our sandwich. And I'm going to run this through twice because I want to get a good deep impression. Uh-oh. My die dropped on the floor when it lifted up. Okay, so now I've got these. See if you can see those. Okay. Tell me if that got too bright. All right, and then I can set that aside. I'm going to take a piece of pear pizzazz. I'm going to take the leaf. And figure out what I did with my plate. Oh, right here. These clear plates are sometimes really hard to see, and I'm going to run that through. All right. And I should have stamped before I did that so I could cut everything all at the same time. But I didn't. Okay, and I already had one of those leaves cut, so we have all of our pieces. I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool. I'm just going to pop those right out. And there we go. So we've got that. Okay, let's put these back on the plate so they don't get lost. All right. So we've got these. And let's go ahead and grab a scrap piece of white. Okay, we don't need a very big piece for this, but I've already got this one here, so I'm going to reuse it. And we're going to take the Happy Holidays, and we're going to stamp this in the Mossy Meadow on some basic white. And then we're going to grab the mini this time. I'm going to have to cut this down so it'll fit in the mini. Okay, pull out the mini. We've got plates. I used plate 2, 3, and 2. So let me grab the Beautiful Trees dies. Okay, these are also in the July to December mini. And I'm going to use this little rectangle here. And I'm going to cut out my Happy Holidays. And the way I line this up is, because this is all flowy and flourishy at the bottom, I look to the top of my Happy. And then that's what I'm lining up along the top of that die. Centering it right to left. And then I'm going to put this down and crank that through. Okay. And we're done with that. And I don't know if you can tell it, but that particular die leaves a little border, like it's a little sign. Okay, so we've got that. Now let's go ahead and start putting our poinsettia together. So for this, I'm going to take a glue dot. I don't want to put glue on my velvet, so I'm going to turn over my medium, the middle-sized poinsettia here, and I'm going to put a glue dot there. I'll stagger those leaves. And then I'm going to grab another glue dot. Put in the center of this one. And stagger those leaves again. All right. Now I'm just going to take my finger and curve these petals. I don't want to do a lot because I'll take out the embossing, and that's not what I want to do. So I'm just going to take my nail quickly over those just to give it some dimension. You don't really have to have any fancy tools. Okay, then we can bring our box back in. I'm going to put this on the top, and again, we're going to grab a Stampin' Dimensional. Okay, I'm going to put that in the center there. I'm going to stick this here and this here. And this does not matter if it sticks off. You know what? I might be wishing I'd cut a third one of those leaves. Okay. No, I'm just going to go with that. All right. And then I'm going to take the Happy Holidays that we stamped and cut, and we're going to put that on the front. And I'm just going to do that flat, a little bit of Stampin' Seal. Okay, and the final piece for this project is to take the Champagne Rhinestone Basic Jewels, and I'm using these because they kind of have a little bit of a yellowish tint. And so I'm just going to put 3 of these small ones in the center of my flower so that it looks like the seeds. And there you have a beautiful gift box. Of course, you could put money or some other chocolates or whatever, but like I said, this is perfectly sized for these cocoa bombs that came in a 6-pack from Winco Foods. And now we have a beautiful gift, and we've got a coordinating card to go along with. All right. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Sharon. Thanks, Tracy. Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Sharon. Okay. All right. So the way this is going to work, let me move this back down here, is that I will not be on tomorrow because I will be on Ballet Carpool, but I will be back on Thursday night at 7:45 with another 12 days of Christmas project for you. So until then, everybody have a good week. I'll see you back here on Thursday. Thank you, Mary. And don't forget, shop your sale items and shop early because those items are while supplies last. All right. Good night. Thanks for watching.